Good morning. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Riverside. Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for all of our virtual attendees. I'm Grace Preuss, a member of the worship committee, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the worship committee who make this service possible include Alec Peck, our music coordinator, Adam Wedeking, who is monitoring our visual and online connections, and Kate Lewicki, who is in charge of the sound system. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. Thank you for joining us. We come together this morning in this safe and spiritual space where we renew our commitment to universal peace, justice, and hope. Together, we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser as we seek to attain wholeness in a fragmented world. Before we begin, we would like to ask you to join us in a moment of silence for the devastating conflicts occurring in the world today, as we pray and hope for peace and justice. In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly. Let us pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. Before we move into the service, there are a few announcements we'd like to share. We will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with this information, and it is also available on our website. First Sunday luncheon. Our first Sunday luncheon will be served after the service. Today's theme is soups. Contributions are appreciated and will be donated to the church fund. We hope to see you there. Panel discussion. A panel discussion on today's topic of peace will be held roughly from 11:30 to 1 p.m. in the sanctuary following the luncheon. All of these times are a little bit approximate based on the service. All are invited to attend and participate in the QA session that will be included. Women's Fed. The next Women's Fed meeting will be on Saturday, January 13th at 1 p.m. in the Parish Hall. A poetry seminar will be led by Lydia Theon Ware I. Church Council meeting. Church Council will meet on the second Friday of the month in the annex. The next meeting will be at 4 p.m. on January 12th. Lunch Bunch. Lunch Bunch will be meeting on Saturday, January 20th. Please contact Pat Cowonder for reservations if you are interested. Lunar Fest book sale. Our annual book sale will be during the Lunar Fest on January 28th and 29th. Please bring any gently used books that you no longer want, taking up space in your shelves for us to sell. Please see Kate if you are available to help with the sale. This year, we will be setting up on the Parish Hall on Friday, January 27th at noon and Saturday morning at 8. We will be open to the public Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 7, and cleanup will be Monday, the 29th. All volunteer help will be greatly appreciated. Newsletter. The monthly UUCR newsletter comes out the first of every month by email and per request by postal mail. If you have something newsworthy or that you would like to contribute, please email uuchurchofriverside.calendar@gmail.com or call the church office at 951-686-6515. If you would like to be added to our mailing list, please contact the church office. This concludes today's announcements. I'm sorry, I forgot Adam's announcement. Adam will be coming up here to give us another final announcement.
I wanted to announce an event the Social and Environmental Justice Committee is hosting later this month. I think is really important and kind of in line with what we'll be talking about today. This new organization called Muslim Visionaries will be holding a teach-in about Palestine here. This is a great, I went to their inaugural event last night, and it's a really great organization that sees sort of no matter where you look on the political scale, there's Islamophobia. And so they see the importance of empowering Muslims in the political sphere. And I think it's a really awesome organization and really great that we can host one of their first events here at the church. So if you're able to make it, there's flyers as you leave the sanctuary here. Feel free to take one. It's on the 26th at 6 p.m. here at the church. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam. And now I invite you to sit back and take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You are welcome to read with me our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to live in service to humankind and all life in fellowship. Thus do we covenant. Our host speaker today is UUCR member, Dr. Lee Greer. Lee Greer is an evolutionary biologist, educator, and married to Linda and a father of 3. Lee and Linda have been members of the UU Church of Riverside for many years. Peace Day, Dialogue Beyond the Destruction. Today's presentation focuses on the review of the history of occupation, ethnic cleansing, and the current international human rights law in humanitarian catastrophe in Palestine, as well as the perspective of survivors and relatives among Palestinians in the diaspora. What can we do at this crisis moment to bring peace with justice? And now I'd like to invite Lee Greer to lead us in the chalice lighting.
We live on land which was inhabited first by others. And part of our land acknowledgements is to remember that. And it's especially important with today's time as well. We remember that underneath is the unceded land of indigenous peoples, the people from Marenga, called by the Spanish conquerors Serrano, the people of the pines, in the San Bernardino Mountains, the Coahuila in the high desert, the Luisena people of the west in Temescal Valley, and to the south, the Cupeño people who slept here. In their honor, and lest we forget the American Holocaust, the largest Holocaust in history, let us honor this land, which is also now our home too. Another tradition that is in this tradition of Unitarian Universalists, most of us who are refugees from the Abrahamic religions, is the chalice. The chalice is a flame, a symbol that goes back generations, and it was used during World War II at the time when another set of holocausts were going on, to signal where resistance and the help for refugees was possible. That's what the chalice represents to Unitarian Universalists.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Bill. Greeting our guests. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others. And so now I will ask for a volunteer from someone who has been here a while to tell us your name and how you found out about our church. We ask you to step close to the mic and speak into it directly and clearly so that everyone can hear. Please be aware that you will be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service, which is posted online. Do we have any church members who'd like to volunteer for us today? Welcome, Maggie. Good to see you.
Hi, my name is Maggie Williams, and I have been volunteered. I've been a member of this church since spring of 2006. And the way I found out about it, I was a UU member from way back from when I was in high school. That was in Marin County, and then in San Francisco, and then when I moved south in San Diego. And so when I moved to Redlands, I was looking for the nearest UU church. It turned out Riverside was the closest location. So I came here, and I've been a member ever since. And I'm third generation UU and happy to be so. And anyway, glad that all of you are here. Thanks.
Thank you, Maggie. And that's how it's done. So if you are new here, a visitor, or an old friend, please raise your hand to stand up and come to the mic in front of the pulpit. Do we have any volunteers today? Gentleman in the back. Good morning.
Morning. My name's David Crane. I've been living in Riverside for like 30 years. I keep driving by the church. I'm like, that would be really cool to go to. So today was the day I woke up and said, well, I'm going to go. So that's why I'm here.
Welcome. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up and introduce themselves? Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Dan Mages, and I'm here with my girlfriend Sierra, son Hendrix. And I lived in Riverside for many, many years and was the youth director of the First Congregational Church across the street for a few years, and also I've attended this church on occasion. And so I'm here this morning to be on the panel. Lee Greer invited me, and I'm just really happy to be here this morning.
Thank you for joining us. Good to have you. Anyone else in the audience who'd like to introduce themselves to us this morning? Okay, Adam, is there anyone online who'd like to introduce themselves? If they could raise their hand, and we will call on you by Zoom. Please let us know who you are, where you are from, and how you found out about us. But we have a few attending by Zoom. That's nice. Welcome, everyone, for joining us today. For any other new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, where you can also find our visitors book or sign your name on the tablet. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you are here, and leave your contact information if you'd like to know about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. Today, in place of coffee hour, we are having our first Sunday luncheon, and everyone is welcome there as well. Joys and concerns. It is said that shared joy is a double joy, shared sorrow is half sorrow. On the first Sunday of each month, we share the joys and concerns that we have received from you and which we have collected throughout the month. First, I'd like to read the joys and concerns that were given to us. The first one is a joy. Thanks to everyone who made another holiday season special and inviting to all of our members and friends. Thank you to all our volunteers. Is there anyone here in the sanctuary who would like to speak to their joy or concern? Please raise your hand and we will invite you to speak here at the microphone. Bill?
A concern. In my, I work security at just a block or two from this place in the Riverside Townhouse Apartments. Recently, we had one death, a woman named Regina, that may have been driven by drugs, probably methamphetamine. And we've had chronic problems with fentanyl hitting some of a younger group of people, many of them Eastside Rivas, and they seem to be having a real trouble resisting it. Like all of these drugs, it's very hard to go through the getting the monkey off your back. And I just wish them the strength and will to do so in this new year.
Thank you, Bill. Is there anyone else who'd like to share a joy or concern? Nick?
I'm Nick Williams, and I am a Universalist Unitarian. It's good to be back. My lovely wife, Tinka, and I have been gone for 3 months. We did a study abroad program through Riverside City College, and I spent 3 months in Florence living there and going to school there and visiting just an enormous number of places, museums, cities, towns while we were there. It was a great experience. It really opened up my brain to learning new stuff, which my brain had lain dormant for years and I didn't even know it. So I'm going to be taking some more classes at RCC. And it's just a great joy to wake up one day and go, oh, wow, I'm not finished yet. And also, while we were there, I celebrated my 37th year of sobriety through 12-step programs and chemical dependency programs, and I'm very proud to share that with you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Nick. It's good to have you and Tinka back. Anyone else in the audience who'd like to share their joy or concern? Okay. Is there anyone online, Adam, who'd like to share their joy and concern? No. Okay. So Bill, if you'd come up. We place a stone in our water chalice to represent the joys and concerns we have shared with our church community and in recognition of those we hold close and have not shared.
Rough for the times when life really chews ends. smooth for all of the quiet joys that regenerate us. And for those things of either joy or concern that are a bit of both, but not spoken.
Thank you, Bill. May we remember those who have spoken, those they have named, and those we hold in silence in our hearts. Sharing our stewardship. This portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished in several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is shown here, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in church each Sunday. Amazon gift cards are also available. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Robert Braun in the church office if you are interested in purchasing the gift cards today. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. And to those who give of their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. To those of you who have joined us today, thank you for the gift of your presence. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? Any food and hygiene items will also be collected to distribute to those in need. Thank you. Our next hymn is number 402, From You I Receive, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, and stand, embody your spirit, and join us in singing number 402, From You I Receive.
From you I receive, to you I give, together from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
And now I'd like to invite Lee Greer to lead us on for the rest of the service. Lee? Okay, I will introduce the meditation. Our meditation today is called Scatterlings of Africa, A Voyage by Johnny Clegg and Juluka. I invite you to relax, take a deep breath, sit back, and enjoy the video.
Scatterlings and fugitives, hooded eyes and weary brows, seek refuge in the night. They are the scatterlings of Africa, each uprooted one, on the road to Belamanga, where the world began. I love the scatterlings of Africa.
On the Y chromosome genes, we can tell that each man that you have today on the planet Earth is connected because that chromosome goes from the father to the son.
Ancient bones from old Dubai, echoes of the very first cry. Who made me here and why? Beneath the copper sun, African idea, African idea. Make the future clear, make the future clear. Scatterlings of Africa, both you and I. We run the road to Belamanga, beneath the copper sky. And we are scatterlings of Africa, journey to the sky. Far below we live forever, dreams of what we were.
Thank you so much for being here today. This is a very serious day. It's a 3-month marker for the latest round of bloodletting in the Middle East. 3 months, similar 3 months happened in Rwanda in 1994. Many of us remember that. That was the first genocide live by radio. Now we're watching the first live streamed genocide. And we want to start a dialogue that goes beyond the destruction that is happening. We talked about indigenous peoples. We want to talk about indigeneity just a little bit. I am an evolutionary biologist and an anthropologist as well by teaching. And everything living thing around you right now is related to you genetically, from the spider that you despise or love, depending on what your feelings are, to the plants, to the bacteria, to the viruses that make you sick, and most of them which are harmless. And there's reason to believe that web of life spreads out into the universe. We don't have time to discuss that. Today, we are all earthlings, and we're all related in a web of life that has been established algorithmically, mathematically, to levels of departure from randomness that are multiple orders, 0.000000, 1 and 3 and 5 and so forth. Well established that we are all related. Anything that we do to our other fellow earthlings ultimately rebounds on us. It just so happens that the cooperators have inherited the earth. That was discovered in the last century via game theory, that cooperation is a more successful all-around strategy than parasitism. In other words, where there is reciprocity and exchange of benefits rather than one group taking and not returning. And of course, all of our religions, which came much later, and they got it directly from our genes, from our evolution, the idea of reciprocal altruism, reciprocity expressed in altruism. By the way, altruism is all around you in the world. Okay? Every time you see a honeybee, you are looking at a creature that will never pass its genes on to the next generation because it's given all of that to the queen of its hive, and it will die defending that queen. One sting, and it is dead. That is called altruism, okay? And that's what that is. So it was found by a series of computer scientists and mathematicians and evolutionary biologists that there's a simple rule, 2 rules that governs. Cooperate on the first move, reciprocate on every move thereafter. And that's why, for reasons we can't go into now entirely, that the cooperators have inherited the earth, and so few species are parasites. And every religion in the Golden Rule recognizes some form of the Golden Rule and hints at the Diamond Rule, which is a step beyond the Golden Rule. The Golden Rule is treat others as you would like to be treated, and the Diamond Rule is treat others as they would like to be treated. In other words, it requires you to step outside of yourself. This is our home in East Africa, in the Great Rift Valley, part of a place of geological clash. You can see the Rift Valley. That Rift Valley starts in East Africa, goes all the way up through the Gulf of Aqaba, through the Dead Sea in the Jordan Valley, Palestine, and Syro-Palestine, and up into the Anatolian Peninsula, what is now Turkey. And it was this where our species, after 4.6 billion, 4.55 billion years of Earth being a planet, our species, not our genus, which emerged before that, and our family, which emerged before that, even a few million years ago, our anatomically modern Homo sapiens species has been around for 300 millennia, more than 300 millennia. Okay? And we did not destroy the Earth in all that period of time. So when people say, blame our species for destroying the Earth, no, our species lived in harmony with the Earth for 99 point however much of its history. The problem isn't our species. The problem is maybe some of the ideas that have arisen. So we traveled out from Africa over Africa, the most diverse continent on the planet, spread out over the tens of thousands of years. And here are the migration patterns out of Africa down to the final migrations within the last 500 years, spreading all out of Africa. It's traceable. The genes don't have an agenda. They tell what happened. They don't communicate myths. It's humans that make myths. That's what happened. We want to talk about one of the most critical papers which was ever published. Patrick Wolf, in the Journal of Genocide Research, 2006, wrote an epical paper, Settler Colonialism and the Elimination of the Native. And this is a pattern which has been observed on every continent except Antarctica. And the phenomena that we're talking about is not something that is as old as humankind. It is something that is far more recent, within the last 2,500 years, actually. We need to ask why that is. The standpoint, and one should always lay out one's own standpoint. I am a humanist in the Enlightenment tradition, and I value the heritage from around the world, whatever continent, from indigenous peoples and all of that. The set of movements and roots which led to a modern science and scientific mathematical worldview, the view that says we dare to know, and we acknowledge the contributions of heretics of all three of the Abrahamic religions, who, by the way, are on trial in the current crisis today, because all three of those religions have complicity, that's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, in our world's crisis right now, a special complicity. Many other religions of indigenous kinds have been around for tens of thousands of years and are not bringing the planet to the brink of destruction. So there's a special responsibility, and those of us who are outside and who have come from within the Abrahamic traditions ourselves, sometimes more than one branch of those traditions, we're appealing to our brothers and sisters within those traditions. Examine your foundations. What led to that complicity? Okay. Now, there has been a tendency of Judaism and Christianity in the West to look down on Islam, but Islam contributed greatly to the Enlightenment and to the liberation, and resistors to the Enlightenment, counter-Enlightenment figures, are in all three religions. Sir Isaac Newton said the most important intellectual of the last millennium, if I've seen further than others, it is because I've stood upon the shoulders of giants, and those giants go back to the ancient Greeks, to the ancient Hindus, and to heretics within these three traditions, and I'm going to highlight three of those heretics. Okay. Ibn al-Arabi and other free thinkers in the Islamic Enlightenment were some of the first that began to say, maybe God and nature are the same, okay, which is the most enlightened point of view one can imagine. A number of them, the most recent of those in the 18th century, Larami Mehmet Effendi paid with his life as a martyr for the accusation of atheism. He wasn't an atheist. He just didn't accept some people's deities who were in power. Now we turn to the Christian tradition, which has also had its heretics and enlighteners. Greer Bruno, okay, who also came to the same realization, essential unity of existence, God and the universe. Okay, and he was burned alive to death in December of 1600. And his and future popes sat on the tribunal which condemned him to that fate. He refused over 7 years, because he had a connection with the universe, to abjure his heresies, to forsake them. And he said to his judges, he said, perhaps your fear in giving me this sentence is greater than mine in receiving it. Giordano Bruno. By the way, he is one of the giants. He is symbolized right here, Campo del Fiero in Rome. His statue looks over at St. Peter's. Here's the statue from another view. Benedict de Spinoza, okay, a Marano person of Jewish extraction, thrown out of the synagogue for his heresy of seeing the same thing. God and the universe are interchangeable. Okay. And his works, of course, helped also to ignite the Enlightenment. Of course, they were preceded by people like Epicurus. Epicurus was viewed, oh, sorry, what is this here? There we go. So we live in a vast universe. We need to go far outside of ourselves and self-examine in this time. Settler colonialism on our own continent, that means that on the New World and in the Old World, led to two, just in our own continents, two colossal human disasters, the American Holocaust and the African Holocaust, transatlantic slave trade. Here's some of the literature on that. And here are some of the settler colonial societies: these United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Israel, apartheid South Africa, Rhodesia. We could add others too, but those are ones. Expansion with genocidal displacement of indigenous peoples from their land, every one of them following the pattern that Patrick Wolf, 2006, pointed out. Here is the United States, settler colonial state. Here is Palestine, what happened there. Also settler colonialism. And very often the people who inflicted settler colonialism on others were themselves traumatized in the places where they had been before. Europe, of course, where most of these genocidal settlers came from, okay, went through a millennium of trauma, which has been aptly called, not politically correctly called, but aptly called, accurately called, the Dark Ages. Okay? The only continent where people to pretend you're not shedding blood burns people alive. Okay? Under Christendom, centuries of Christendom, one of the Abrahamic faiths. Okay? People carry that trauma we know today with them, and they traumatize others. That's what happens. Okay. We can see it in our own. Have you ever noticed that some of the things that happened to you, maybe you passed on to your own children, didn't treat them the way you should have, or maybe didn't, lashed out at somebody that was dear to you or harmed somebody. Okay. In my own background, my maternal side is from the Middle East with ancestry on two of the sides, Christian and Jewish, according to the genetics. Some, all right. And my grandparents were survivors of the Armenian Holocaust in the First World War, and I watched the trauma passed down in our immediate family as well. Okay. Palestine has undergone a similar, within the last century, settler colonial project, which is well documented by thoughtful leaders of all three religions, Jewish, Christian, and Islamic. What is apartheid? It is a system of laws that systematically discriminate against some in favor of others, either by race, ethnicity, religion. And there have been a number of these societies. I've seen firsthand what that looked like in Northern Ireland during the time of the Troubles, and of course before that in the plantations of Elizabeth the First, with the plantation of Scottish people in Ulster in Northern Ireland. And of course, Oliver Cromwell, to hell or to Connacht, was a genocidal call. Either go to hell or go to the west of Ireland, the Rocky Mountain west of Ireland, Connacht. Now, I've lived in Connacht, and I can say that beats hell. But people went there to die. It's the same pattern that keeps repeating for reasons. Okay, what is genocide? As you may know, that term has come to life again by a case bravely brought by the Republic of South Africa against the settler colonial state that occupies Palestine. Okay, and it involves these things brought by Raphael Lemkin. Raphael Lemkin was a Polish Jewish jurist who observed and wrote a book in 1944 called Axis Rule in Occupied Europe, speaking about World War II. And I want to tell you a little bit about Raphael Lemkin by sharing another site here real briefly. Okay, Raphael Lemkin, this is the Enlightenment Legacy site. And under the term genocide, you will find the literature on this. Raphael Lemkin took the Greek word genos and pseudo from the Latin, which means race or category of people killing, and he published this book. And this was before the world knew about Auschwitz, Birkenau, Belzec, Treblinka, Mauthausen. Before the world knew about that, he was a jurist, and he observed that the Third Reich decrees imposed in occupied countries seemed deliberately calculated with intent to destroy non-Aryan, non-Germanic populations in the occupied countries. In his case study of occupied Poland, he showed how the Nazis initiated 5 policies with intent to destroy the Polish population. That was before he knew about Auschwitz-Birkenau. Okay, that same genocidal legal apparatus was applied to Slavic peoples in Axis-occupied areas, including among the peoples of the Soviet Union. Kiernan et al. In 2023 showed how it was applied to 3.3 million of Soviet POWs killed in Nazi custody. That was a deliberate process. Okay, and of course it was applied to Eastern Jewish people, to Roma, commonly called gypsies, and to millions of Slavs. The Holocaust, of course, is not just the destruction of one people, the Nazi Holocaust, it was of multiple peoples. That tends to be forgotten in our world today, and it was what was done to Polish people that, and with remembrance of the Armenian genocide, that Raphael Lemkin wrote his definitions. Genocide, and this is what the UN General Assembly passed 2 days after they passed the Genocide Convention. Genocide is the denial of the right of existence of entire human groups, as homicide is the denial of the right to live of individual human beings. Such denial of the right to existence shocks the conscience of mankind, results in great losses to humanity in the form of cultural and other contributions represented by these human groups, and is contrary to the moral law and the spirit and aims of the United Nations. Many instances of such crimes of genocide have occurred when racial, religious, political, and other groups have been destroyed entirely or in part. So when we talk about the American Holocaust, we talk about the disappearance of hundreds of nations and languages and their traditions. Demographic collapses of 99.9% of populations and whole nations disappearing, or a few survivors. Okay, all right, so I will return to the other presentation now. And what is genocide? Following Raphael Lemkin's scholarship, and this is the Genocide Convention. Any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, does not have to be in whole in order to be genocide, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such, for meaning being part of the group. Starts off, obviously, killing members of the group, B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to the group. By the way, loud explosions and little children, what do you think that does to the brain? Let alone traumatic brain injuries, TBIs. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. Do mothers of our species thrive and give birth under conditions of chaos and violence? Or places where water is destroyed, or where 500 people have one toilet among them. I'm talking about conditions which are going on right now. Forcibly transferring the children of the group to another group. That can be transferring of children of the group into custody or into residential schools, as happened with the native peoples of our continent here. Okay, or transferring thousands of members of the children of a group into eternity. Gone. And the ways that these 5 acts of genocide can be done is directly genocide, punishable crimes, conspiracy to commit that, direct and public incitement to commit that, attempt to commit that. You don't have to succeed, attempt to commit that. Complicity in it, that means how are your tax dollars being used? Are you complicit? Am I complicit? Now let's take a moment and look at Palestine, which is an ancient land going back a long time. It's one of the first places colonized by anatomically modern human beings, tens of thousands of years ago, and it's always been a crossroads of people migrating between different continental land masses. Here is Palestine, right here, and it's a very curious thing that the crime of apartheid can be seen from outer space. Can you see that the green areas and the brown areas correspond with the political borders? Those are not the waterways. That shows what happens when land theft and water theft can be seen from outer space. Here's the political barriers, occupied territories, and you can see the crime is written in front of the whole universe there. You can see it from outer space. Here is the Gaza Strip right now. This is not the way it looks right now, though. It looks worse than this, but here it is under apartheid. Here is what it looks like before. This is the Gaza Strip. Heavily populated, lack of water. That was before. That is systematic, planned. That's not the way nature did it. Systematically planned. And brave Israeli scholars have pointed out that it is a concentration camp. This is the world's largest concentration camp. Has 2.3 million people within it. Okay, under conditions calculated to bring about their destruction in whole or in part, or to force them to be separated from the land. Those of us who have worked with Native Americans understand that people separated from the land often die from being off the land. Okay? That's what the whole purpose of the pioneering of concentration camps was done on our continent, wasn't it? Indian reservations, right? You've heard of them, perhaps, right? And of course, when people fight back from those Indian reservations, in other words, they don't stay on the reservation. Do you understand how our language is corrupted by this stuff? Okay. Then they are the terrorists, understand? And please understand, I condemn, and all of us should, every civilian death. Whichever side it is, every civilian death. Okay, here is the various cities you've heard about: Gaza, Deir al-Balah, Khan Yunis, Rafah. Okay. Here is before the bombing, here is after. Have a look at that. Before, after. Conditions calculated to bring about the destruction of a people in whole or in part. You can see it from space. Well, you can't see my entire slide. It seems, but in the 4th month of this genocide, 4% of Gaza's population is dead, missing, or injured. 70% of the infrastructure is destroyed. This is from the Euromed Human Rights Monitor. And all of these figures are too low, the figures which are cited here. And notice what has been destroyed. Homes, partially destroyed homes, displaced people, 1.9 million. 1.9 million. Okay. That's already past the, and a large majority of those are facing the threat of famine and lack of clean water. Not because there isn't water or food around, it's deliberately prevented from entering by policies which are publicly stated and supported by your tax dollars and mine. Okay. Destruction of the press. More journalists have died in the shorter period of time. Why? Journalists are witnesses When a crime is underway, what perpetrator wants witnesses, right? Okay. Hospitals are destroyed. Remember, there was games played with that was somebody from inside, that was, Islamic Jihad, or somebody fired that, and the Al-Shifa hospital. Well, I mean, how many hospitals do we have damaged? Over 135 health facilities have been hit. Okay. Imposing conditions of life calculated to bring about the end of a people in whole or in part. Health care staff, direct targeting, mosques and churches, schools. Who is in schools? Children are in schools. Forcible transfer of the young. By the way, people facing annihilation have the right to resist. Okay? They have the right to do that. The Battle of Beirut, a war started by this process, which has gone on for decades. Russell Means, pictured on the middle left there, because they had had their own battle of Wounded Knee with the federal government in 1973. Okay. Second Wounded Knee, right? Sorry. Russell Means, right here on the cursor there. That's Russell Means, yes. And these are some of the people involved. He said the Palestinians, and of course Yasser Arafat of the PLO, was trapped under Israeli bombardment in the Battle of Beirut. He said the Palestinians of North America offer sanctuary to the American Indians of the Middle East. We have that relationship. Those dots are connected. Did you get that? They got the picture. They knew who was who in that. All right. Well, I'm going to wind up fairly quickly now. I just want to let you know that there's been a long process. The Nakba of 1948, the title doesn't show there, but okay, it went through a process by which 531 villages and their surrounding were taken. More than 800 dispossessed refugees were forced out. 20 million dunams of land, that's more than 5 million acres, were stolen. Okay, here were the series of 155 massacres, which occurred, 232 war crimes. Genocide had already started then. Sometimes genocide goes slowly and sometimes it goes rapidly. We're in a rapid period right now. Notice that all of these figures are under 1 million. Who's being faced now? You're facing numbers of 2.3 million people under threat. That's larger than the Armenian Holocaust of 1.5 million that are under threat today. Your tax dollars, are you hearing about it? Yeah, it's unavoidable. Are you hearing about it in terms that it's actually happening? Okay. No point in not mentioning the fact that Palestine has always been a multi-ethnic place, going back to the 15th century, 14th century, before the Common Era. Okay, it's been called Palestine for longer than it's been called anything else. Okay, wasn't the Romans that started that. It was long before that, some form of it going all the way back. And by DNA, it's been all kinds of peoples of Semitic languages. What are Semitic languages? There are about 30 Semitic languages in the world. Okay, those are language. It's a language group, a particular type of language, linguistic structure. Okay, and the peoples there have always been of mixed beliefs, mixed ethnicities, and they are the indigenous peoples of the land. Okay, going back here, there you go. Whirlwind tour down through the centuries, BCE, before the Common Era, and since the Common Era. There's never been a time when it has not been populated. Here's 1544. See a lot of towns, no empty land for a land without a people. It's always been a land with people on it. 1590, go through 1843, when supposedly, it didn't have any inhabitants, right? Sure. 1851, when Mark Twain went through apparently with his eyes closed. So he didn't know what he was looking at, apparently. The Balfour Declaration, the colonial division among the great powers that fought in the First World War. And there it is during the 20th century through the partition. And will there be a return home? Of course there will. There is a future for it. It's a future which has one undivided Palestine with all religions welcome to live there in equal rights, which is not the case now. Jews, Christians, and Muslims, people of all faith, and dissenters, those of us who say none of the above, please. Okay, as far as religions are concerned. And there are people of conscience in all of them that stand together. And Dr. Abu Salman Abu Sita has done a lot of research. He's a Palestinian, showing that there is abundant place and ways for everyone to return and live side by side in peace. He has published that way. And there is no way to have one particular group demographically dominate over the other without genocide. Okay, so which is the aim of the current regime there. Well, genocide isn't working. There are far more people now. Can it be done? Yes. No problem. Central, Eastern, etc. There will be a return home, and that's what we can hope and strive for. Dialogue is what we wanted to do on this special day of January 7th, which is 3 months from October 7th. And we wanted to start that here today, and to borrow a phrase, that day of peace will come, inshallah, as from the Islamic peoples. Peace at last. Thank you. Since we've gone a little bit over, we'll go ahead and have the final song, and that will be our benediction. Yes.
Still I drive, and heart can say,
Thank you, Lee, for sharing your valuable time and insights with us this morning. It is sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you again. We will now adjourn into the parish hall where we will share in the first Sunday lunch until roughly 11:45 to 12. Following the lunch, there will be a panel discussion, including Q&A with the audience in the sanctuary until roughly 1:15. Please join us as we continue our discourse on peace. Thank you for being here with us today. After the lunch, we'll come back, adjourn, and there will be Q&A included. Am I right? Both. Okay. We'll see you then.